in a sort of circle. Yeah, so the pieces fit together. And if you have this fit, then it is relatively straightforward to move to the next layer, which is even more general, because this Lakoff's theory is about cognitive mapping, cognitive linkages, and so forth. And there is one foundational theory about the human brain proposed by Nobel laureate Gerald Edelman already more than 20 years ago, and further developed in many, many contexts, which is what Edelman himself called neuronal Darwinism, which is about conceiving the brain as an evolutionary system, work following all those principles: variation, selection, retention, competition, emergence of layers, and so forth. And a very detailed theory, which I think provides the foundation for the more application-oriented theories on the lower level. And if one arrives at this level, then new opportunities open up. The reason is, well, if we, as I said on the first slide, this generalized Darwinism approach is a multi-level approach. For example, Edelman does not claim that evolutionary processes in the human brain can be reduced to genetic processes. So it's different levels, applying similar principles, but different levels. But if you look at the mechanisms, then of course there's one opportunity to show how the levels can be interconnected, and this is especially evolutionary psychology. Evolutionary psychology is entirely different from the perspective as compared to Edelman's Neuro-Darwinism, because evolutionary psychology is explicitly about phylogenetic roots of human behavior, but especially also cognitive structures and so on. Most famous example of evolutionary psychological research is about social exchange. Social exchange to understand human cognitive skills, especially from the viewpoint how to conduct social exchange, how to discover cheating in social exchange, and so forth. So as an adaptation, to understand human intelligence as an adaptation to social exchange and social interaction. And Toby and Cosmides, in their work, argue that the crucial coordinating mechanism in this sort of complex human, dynamic human brain is or are the emotions. So that, for example, in the case of social exchange, if human beings are able to discover cheating, this is not a fully fledged rational process to collect data, analyze data, reach a conclusion. But it is based on certain cognitive skills which are coordinated via fundamental emotions, so that there is a huge, for example, saving in decision costs and so on. And this is a crucial point in the entire paper. The argument is that if we look at those neuronal theories, what could be the central organizing concept then? This is the concept of emotion. And that, of course, makes a big difference to a standard economic approach. A standard economic approach starts out from rationality. With this sort of argument, we end up with another theoretical category, which then would be regarded also as foundational for, finally, the empirical level. The empirical level is just defined as performative action. This is what we observe, what people really do. For example, as people using money in everyday life, or people who save money, people who use credit cards, and this sort of thing. This is
say once more what do you mean by performative actions?
Performative action means that is this sort of rule-guided behavior, but in the sense of this notion of rule following. It does not mean that people fully understand that they follow a rule. Yeah? And in this sense, performative. Yeah. Final thing, you see there is an additional perspective, but maybe for reason of time I just skip this now. But as I said, what one really needs, oh, there is a typo here, there's an English thing. One also needs to have an idea of the artifacts, the role of artifacts. Let me just make a simple point on this, because it is related to some fundamental issues in cognitive science. In cognitive science you have basically two strands of thought. One is the internalist, the other is the externalist. Externalist are theories, for example, about distributed cognition and so forth, meaning that cognitive processes are to a large degree externalized, rely on artifacts, writing, numbers, also social interaction, and so on. And for that reason, I think that if we, it is also sort of criticism on my part, this notion of rule following is exclusively internalist, but naturalistic. But, I mean, internalist in the sense only concentrating on what is going on within the brain. Yeah? Edelman himself, in his theory, already said more than 20 years ago, it cannot work. Only to look at the internal processes of the brain, for the simple reason there will never be an equilibrium. There must be an external anchor. And the external anchor, Edelman said, is communication. But what is communication? Communication is nothing that happens just in thin air or something in outer space. Communication means to do something physical. For example, when I talk to you, something happens in the physical world. And in that sense, it is important to add the external dimension to this kind of analysis. And there is one theory which makes this very explicit by Robert Unger. And this is interesting because he wrote a book about memes, genes, memes. Memes as a research program, I think, is dead. But he had a very, had a journal and so on, it is defunct, so there is no progress because there are so many problems with this notion. But Unger proposed an entirely different approach, which links the neuroscience perspective with the perspective on artifacts and evolving artifacts, such as technology, for example.